right, hello and welcome, fight fans. Welcome on into the undercard. I'm your host, Jeff Patello, and happy 2020. I believe this is the first episode of the new year, and we're going to be talking about some fucking Golden Boy promotions. This was a pretty interesting night. We had a couple of scraps that went the distance. This card, though, first started off with 3 nasty body shots. And, whew, I don't know how many of y'all been hit to the fucking body, but when you watch it in a slow motion replay, it is just vicious, just the way the mind and then the body all of a sudden connect, and then the body just shuts down. And, right off the bat, there was 3 quick fights. I believe the first 2 fights, they ended up in the first 2 rounds. The very first fight was George Rancon versus Diego Perez. Rancon was just was the better fighter in this match here. He just kind of, was the younger, hungrier fighter. Perez didn't look too good, didn't look solid at all. He's older. He's probably on the tail end of his career. But Rancon came out and set it up, right? And that's what I like about these body shots that came in. They were all set up through, not just like strong shots to the head, but just little touches to the head. And that's all it takes sometimes, right? You just got to get a guy moving a certain way, and then it just opens up the body. And that's what we saw here, right? Rancon was using the right hook to set up the body shot, and he just 3 times he went to the well, and poor Diego Perez just could not stay in. And within I believe it was 2 minutes, done for, right? Them body shots, so hard to recover from, but it's the sweet science, it's the fucking beauty of it all. And the best example of the night of the body shots was fight number 2, Travell Maison, which was a young and up-and-coming Texas fighter. He's like a young kid, 24 years old, tall. He's got fucking length, but he shows that he's got some smarts. He was in there against Fernando Castaneda. Castaneda is no slouch, right? He's, I believe he's 31. I forgot exactly who he fought last time, but it was a war that he had, right? So this was scheduled for a 10-round fight in the... and it was also scheduled for the vacated super middleweight belt, right? So I was kind of expecting, a pretty good scrap. Minute in, poor Castaneda went down, and Maison just set it up so beautifully, folks. He just went and just tapped to the head, right? Got Rancon to close up his guard, put it up, and then Maison just came in and snuck in behind his elbow and just landed the most vicious body shot. You guys need to go and look it up. It just, the way it sounded in real time, such a solid thud. And poor Castaneda just could not get up, He did manage to get up, but as soon as it was he rolled to the ground, he got up on the 8 count, right? The ref tried to bring him in, and he just couldn't do it, right? He just dropped to the ground, almost rolled out of the cage. It was crazy. It was nuts. But actually, before we dive into too much of the other fights, if we jump back a little bit, some strange things happened at the end of that Rancon fight. Rancon, the winner, actually ended up fainting, folks. It was a little scary moment. You didn't really see it too much going on, but you heard about what was going on. At first, they were reporting that he was having a seizure, but that turned out to be false. He had just really fainted from the excitement and the adrenaline dump that he had, which is understandable. Sometimes, you kind of build yourself up and you work yourself up to these fights, right? And then, just to have that release, that little bit of relief. And he was just, it just kind of all overtook him. It all overtook him. But, he was okay. He was cleared at the end of the fights, you know what I mean, to go home from the hospital, right? And it was good to see because, you know, fortunately at the end of 2019, you know, we had a couple incidences in boxing, and it's good to see that, you know, that these fighters are getting taken care of properly. Yeah, and then you know, another nasty body shot. This time, the fight went to, I believe, the second round, or round 3. It was a good little tilt between Hector Valdez and Luis Ruiz. Ruiz was looking to be the counter fighter and had a few good shots land on Valdez, but Valdez was the aggressor. He had a nasty left hook to the body, and put Rios away, right? You know, both these guys are very seasoned fighters. For whatever reason, Valdez seems to not be the most active fighter, but the dude's got like mad talent. So hopefully, whatever he's got going on, he can start making more appearances here and start getting, you know what I mean, like some more bigger fights, because the dude's got talent. Rios, like I said, he's no slouch himself, but his game plan was just not working. You know, like I said, he was looking to be the counter fighter, but he just couldn't handle the aggression that Valdez was bringing to the fight. It was a good little scrap for the first little bit. The first round was very entertaining. The second round was good, but you could definitely start to see that that Valdez was just too much for Ruiz. And lo and behold, you know, shot to the head and nasty hook to the body, right? You know, and it wasn't even a big shot to the head, folks. He just worked the body a couple times. In round 2, he also had landed a nasty body shot that fucking Rios definitely had felt, and you know, that might have been the start of his downfall, to be honest, folks. This next fight here that I'm going to talk about was very interesting young prospect. His name is Tristan Calreath. I hope I said that right. And he was fighting against a Blake Lacaze. Now, I'm going to be honest, I didn't know much about either of these two fighters, but Tristan is a 18-year-old kid. Apparently, he got signed with the Golden Boy Promotions at age 17. And this kid just showed some very high-level fight IQ, right? He put this bad boy away in the first round, but this time it was a little bit different compared to the other matches that we watched, right? The first 3 matches, you know what I mean, ended with nasty body shots. This one ended with a nasty hook, and it put Blake down. His eyes were even rolling and everything. It was just vicious. Poor Blake got starched, right? And this time, Tristan kind of like worked it differently from everybody else. He was using the shots to the body to set up the overhand rights, and the shot that put him down, he put him down twice, but I'm just talking about the one that kind of ended the fight here. He set him up with a hook to the body, overhand right, and then the most vicious left hook to the chin, and just night. And he did that twice to him, pretty much. The very first knockdown was the same thing, and it was open. Tristan noticed that it was open, and he capitalized. He fucking came in and just starched him. Poor Blake, eyes rolling, and you know, it was a very impressive performance, and no wonder that Golden Boy got on this kid right away. You know, he was fighting at 188 pounds, and you know, like once this kid gets seasoned, you know, I'm sure that he'll compete for like some cruiserweight belts, which nobody gives a fuck about. But eventually, I hope to see this kid get into the heavyweight division. This kid's got a lot of potential. Hopefully, they don't rush him, but you know, hopefully they don't just keep feeding him like crappy fights too, right? You know, let's see step up in competition a little bit, because fighting guys like Blake, you know what I mean, it's not a good thing. You know, he's just gonna keep running through those opponents, right? And the next fight that we had was against Joshua Franco versus Jose Alejandro Burras. In this fight, Franco was just showing, you know, a phenomenal display of skills, smarts, high fight IQ. This guy was very calm in the pocket, fought well outside. He fought behind the jab. Most of this fight was kind of like 50-50, kind of like on the inside, on the outside. And Burroughs just really had no answer for anything that Franco was doing in the ring. Burroughs fell behind early in the fight, which led him into some more trouble. It's very hard thing that, like, when you're behind the points, that you're trying to play this game of catching up. It's also like this mental game, you know what I mean? So you start kind of like doing things that you normally wouldn't do. As a direct result of this, Burroughs was starting to throw a lot more punches, but Franco was able to slip most of them. He was starting to throw wild punches, and Franco was starting to capitalize on countering, and that's essentially like what led to the beatdown that Burroughs had. The referee had to step in the ninth and call this fight because the pace that Franco was starting to put on him was just very vicious, very nasty, and it just got outclassed. You know what I mean? And I think I would like to almost see this one get run back a little bit. You know what I mean? Because like I had said, right? Maybe if Burroughs hadn't fallen behind in the first little bit, then he wouldn't have been such a wild man in that ring. But that is the fight game, right? So this shit unfortunately happens. Also, we had another Burroughs on the card. This one was Juan Carlos Burroughs versus Hector Taniera Jr. And this was a hell of a barn burner match right here, to be honest with you. Taniera was, I'd say he was like in control of this fight for like a good like 8 rounds. He did get knocked down in the 10th, but like he was so far ahead that it really didn't matter. Hector was was very smart. He fought on the outside, you know what I mean? There wasn't a lot of like fighting on the inside. He was using this the check left hook, right? You know what I mean, to keep Burroughs in check. And it was a clinic, and it wasn't until like the last rounds where I think maybe Hector kind of gassed out a little bit because he was putting on such a high volume. He was fighting behind a jab, and was very, very lengthy fighter, you know what I mean? I think, I believe it was like something like 80% of the fight was fought on the outside, right? So these guys didn't like get in on the inside, you know what I mean? But like when they did get on the inside, you could definitely see that he definitely had the skills to be in there, right? He's just showing, you know what I mean? Just ring smarts, how to fucking fight to your game plan and how to fight to your strengths, and that's what he did, right? This one went the distance. Not too many of these fights ended up going the distance. This was the only fight that ended up going 10 rounds, on the male side anyways. But as for the female card, holy Christ. I'm going to be honest, I didn't know nothing about any of these two women, but let me tell you, they came to fucking scrap. Holy Christ. This was probably the fight to watch. It wasn't like ugly or anything, I mean, I guess it got a little bit ugly. There was a little bit of dirty boxing going on, but this was a bout between Francon Cruz de Zone, I hope I said that right, versus Alejandra Jimenez. Alejandra Jimenez is a former heavyweight fighter who dropped down to the super middleweight, right? So down to like 163 she was actually for this fight. And the smaller fighter, Francon, was actually a couple pounds bigger. She was 168 coming into this. Francon was the WBC and the WBO super middleweight champion. And, very relatively young in her career too, because she's only like 6-1 in her pro career so far. But let me tell you, it was kind of interesting because like even like she was the smaller fighter at like 5'8", but she had the longer reach. I think she had a 71-inch reach advantage over to the much taller fighter. Alejandra was 5'11", and she had a reach of only like 69 inches, right? So not a huge difference, but like a difference that I really didn't expect to be there. You know what I mean? You would just assume somebody that's as tall like that's got like, you know what I mean, that they're just gonna have the reach, right? The one thing that I didn't notice in this fight, even though that Alejandra was the lighter of the two fighters, I think her mass size was starting to become a problem for Francone after the first couple rounds, because what she did was just kind of like lean on her, put her weight on her, right? And she was just able to do that, I think, a lot, mainly because she was so much more taller than DAZN, or DAZN, my bad. And she was just able to gas out DAZN because of this, right? You know, just kind of like leaning, dirty boxing a little bit, you know what I mean? And actually, because of this, Cruz had to start fighting a little bit dirty boxing, you know, throwing in kind of like the shoulder to kind of shove her off. And, you know, she landed some amazing shots that, like, if she had landed that left hook, I believe it was like in the 5th round or possibly the 6th round, that like she would have dropped any other woman, right? But something's to be said about Alejandra's chin, right? You know, coming down from that heavyweight. I mean, she's obviously used to the power, right? So coming down in weight, you know, there's probably she can eat a couple more shots, you know what I mean? Because they're not really going to affect her as much. And she was just able to kind of like bully her way around for the most part. I had this fight at pretty much like 8-2, you know what I mean? Maybe it was a little bit closer, 6-4. But, you know, Cruz just didn't know. I think she like gassed out a little bit at the start, because they had just came out and like they were just throwing fucking haymakers. It was pretty impressive, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? The women's division is always so exciting, right? They just out for blood sometimes, right? But you know, it wasn't just like wild swinging or anything like that. You can tell both these women had a high level of skill, and it showed. It was a fun scrap to watch. It was entertaining, and it was one of the more fun fights of the night, because like up to this point, we had pretty much seen 3 first round. We had saw 4 first round knockouts, 3 of them by the body shot, 1 of them by a vicious left hook from Tristan. And then we had saw 1 fight stoppage, and you know, another one that went the distance, but it was like dominated from like one person. You know what I mean? At least like in most of these rounds, like I know like I had scored this originally like 8-2 for Alejandra, but like the rounds were like close. You know what I mean? So like anybody could have like really gone either way in a lot of those rounds, right? You just never know. So that's why I was saying that this one was the most exciting fight, because on the main card we had Jaime Munguia fighting Spike O'Sullivan. And my only real interest in this fight was one, Jaime Munguia moved up in weight class, which now he's going to be fighting in the like super middleweight, so that brings him in the same era of puts him in puts him in the same category of a Canelo Alvarez, a Triple G, you know what I mean? And let's just face it, in boxing right now, those are the big money fights, and everybody wants to fight those guys. That being said, however, Jaime's last fight, I was not impressed. In my opinion, Munguia lost that last fight. Happy Hogan beat him. That's how I kind of had it scored, to be honest. But that's kind of also how it is in boxing, you know what I mean? They kind of like groom certain people so that they can, sell bigger fights, right? Now, I don't know if they're thinking that Munguia is going to actually compete and contend against a guy like a Canelo or a Triple G, you know what I mean? Like, but, the way he fought Spike O'Sullivan here, I wasn't too impressed. I know, like, at the end of the fight, he was ready to call out to Triple G and a Canelo Alvarez, but I feel the way that he fought in that Hogan fight, that we're gonna need. He's probably like 2 fights away from being able to step into a ring with Triple G. I think at this point, you know what I mean? Like, I think Canelo's doing his own thing, so we won't see him defend against somebody like a Jaime. I mean, like, he's out there just racking up belts, you know what I mean? Every goddamn division, right? Canelo is so fucking impressive, you know? For anybody who thinks that Canelo Alvarez is not the face of boxing right now, y'all are fucking crazy. He's the main face of boxing. I put him, Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, and Vasily Lomachenko. Those are the faces of boxing right now. By far. Anyways, though, in this fight, Jaime showed, you know what I mean, that he was much more improved, you know what I mean? Going into this fight, O'Sullivan had claimed to have saw chinks in his armor, which, you know what I mean, is completely understandable. Because like I had said, he did not put on a great performance against Hogan. However, he just worked Sullivan. This was a 12-round fight, obviously in the middleweight division. I think this got stopped in the 11th. Actually, Spike's corner threw in the towel. Spike was starting to take a lot of shots. Also, you know, there's some like factors to this fight. I think Spike took I know for sure he took 2 low blows in that fight, possibly 3. The referee actually had to come in and take a point from Munguia. So, for y'all who've been hitting the dick before, that shit's not fun. That'll slow you down, you know what I mean? And like over multiple times, I'm sure you was starting to feel a little bit queasy. Lord knows I would be, that's for sure. That being said and all, you know what I mean? Jaime was able to pour on the pressure. Jaime looked a lot better. He was fighting a lot smarter. And for a moment there, I think the bell kind of like saved him a little bit because he got in and was trying to put the pressure on in the end of the third there. And they were starting to swing and throw some wild shots. And fucking Spike landed a nasty right cross right on the button, and then ding, the bell, right? So, you know, who's to say if he was in any real trouble, but we never know, right? You know, what it coulda, shoulda type of deal thing, right? You know, because I know like when he came out for the 4th round, he was unfazed, so probably he wasn't in any trouble, way, shape, or form. But that's it for the Golden Boy promotion card, guys. That was on the Zone. I don't know how many of you have got the package for that, but I enjoy it immensely. I mean, for the $20 a month that you're paying, I think you guys get a lot of content on there. And this is by no way, shape, or form a advertisement for them. It's just my own personal opinion. They offer me like I'm a Canadian, right? So like I can't get the NFL package, and this is the only way that I can get the actual NFL package, right? So with that being said, it allows me to do kind of my MMA shows, right? Like I got to go out and get the UFC events, you know what I mean? But I can get some high level quality boxing and high level MMA as well, you know what I mean, in the form of Bellator. And I've been loving a lot of the stuff that Bellator is doing, you know what I mean? I love that like Bellator is doing cross promotions with Ryzen, you know, and I kind of like seeing that shit. And I hope that the UFC will start to do that one day, you know what I mean? Because they're starting to you know, just there's so many like high level fighters, you know, it's always interesting. I kind of want to see guys fighting each other in their primes, right? That being said, we've got UFC this Saturday. I might be doing a show later on in the week to do some fight predictions. Really looking forward to Cowboy Cerrone and Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor has been away for a really long time, so we'll see. We'll see if he's got that gumption still, you know what I mean? I'm a huge fan of Cowboy Cerrone, and I kind of want to see Cerrone starch fucking Conor. But the words coming out of Conor's camp is that he is looking phenomenal, top-notch, you know what I mean? There's coaches are saying they are seeing the best version of Conor McGregor yet. But at the same time, too, like, what the fuck else are they supposed to say? All right, y'all. With that being said, thank you so much for sticking in here and listening to me jaw jack for a little bit. Hope to see you all soon. If you liked what we got going on here, please make sure to hit that like button. And feel free to leave a comment. Hit that subscribe button and stay up to date with what I got going on here, guys. Thank you so much. Peace. Much love. Mwah.